Have you ever met someone who notices things that everyone else misses? They walk into a room and instantly sense the tension. They can tell when someone is pretending to be happy. They notice patterns before anyone else does. And sometimes they seem almost psychic. But here's the truth. Most of the time, they're not seeing things that don't exist. They are seeing things that other people ignore. And psychology has a fascinating explanation for why. Because people who consistently notice what others don't often share a unique set of mental traits that allow them to pick up on hidden details, emotional signals, and subtle patterns that most minds filter out. So if you've ever felt like you notice things that nobody else sees, or you've wondered why certain people seem unusually perceptive, stay until the end. Because the psychology behind this is far deeper than most people realize. Number one, they pay attention to what others filter out. Your brain is constantly deleting information. Right now, you're ignoring the feeling of your clothes touching your skin. You're ignoring distant sounds. You're ignoring thousands of tiny details around you. If your brain processed everything equally, you'd be overwhelmed. So it filters a lot. But some people naturally have weaker filters when it comes to observation. They notice small changes in tone, tiny facial expressions, slight shifts in body language, details in conversations that everyone else forgets. Psychologists call this heightened perceptual awareness. While most people focus only on what seems immediately important, highly observant individuals absorb far more information from their surroundings. It's like everyone is watching the same movie, but they're noticing the background details that reveal the ending before it happens. And that's why they often seem unusually insightful. They're not guessing, they're collecting more data. Number two, they trust patterns more than appearances. Most people judge situations based on what they see in the moment, but people who notice what others don't often focus on patterns instead. And patterns rarely lie. Someone says they're happy, but their energy has been declining for months. Someone promises they'll change, but they've repeated the same behavior for years. Someone appears confident, but their actions constantly reveal insecurity. Highly perceptive people learn to trust consistency over performance, because anyone can act a certain way for a day, a week, even a month. But patterns reveal the truth. This is closely connected to a psychological principle known as behavioral consistency. Past behavior is often one of the strongest predictors of future behavior, and people who recognize this tend to see outcomes before others do, not because they can predict the future, but because they're paying attention to the clues hidden in the past. Number three, they notice emotional contradictions. Have you ever had a strange feeling that someone wasn't being honest, even though their words sounded perfectly normal? That's because communication isn't just verbal. In fact, much of human communication happens without words at all. A person might say they're okay, but their eyes look exhausted. They might claim they're excited, but their voice lacks energy. They might smile, but something about it feels forced. People who notice what others don't are often highly sensitive to these emotional contradictions. Their brains naturally compare words with behavior, and when the two don't match, alarm bells start ringing. Psychologists sometimes refer to this as emotional intelligence, the ability to recognize, understand, and interpret emotional signals. And interestingly, many emotionally intelligent people don't consciously know how they're doing it. They simply feel that something is off. Their subconscious picks up the mismatch before their conscious mind can explain it, which is why their instincts are often surprisingly accurate. Number four, they spend more time observing than talking. Here's something many people overlook. The loudest person in the room is rarely the most observant, because observation requires attention, and attention requires silence. Many highly perceptive individuals have a habit of watching before speaking, listening before reacting, studying before judging. While others rush to express opinions, they quietly gather information. This creates a huge advantage, because people reveal themselves when they think nobody is paying attention. The way someone treats a waiter, the way they react to failure, the way they speak about people who aren't present. These moments often reveal far more than carefully chosen words. And observant people notice them. This is why some individuals seem to understand people so quickly. They're not focused on what people say about themselves. They're focused on what people unintentionally reveal. Number five, they are comfortable. Being different. One reason many people miss obvious truths is surprisingly simple. They don't want to see them. Because seeing certain things can be uncomfortable. Humans are social creatures. We naturally seek agreement, belonging, validation. And this creates something psychologists call conformity bias. the tendency to think like the group, even when the group is wrong. But people who notice what others don't often possess a different trait. They're willing to stand alone. If they see something unusual, they don't automatically dismiss it just because nobody else sees it. They question, they analyze, they stay curious. Of course, this doesn't mean they're always right. Nobody is. But they're less likely to ignore evidence simply because it's unpopular. And that willingness to think independently often allows them to spot truths before everyone else catches up. Number 6. Their minds connect dots, faster imagine, seeing hundreds of puzzle pieces scattered across a table. Most people focus on one piece at a time, but some people naturally connect multiple pieces simultaneously. This is pattern recognition, one of the most powerful abilities the human brain possesses. When someone notices repeated behaviors, recurring events, similar emotional reactions, and subtle connections between them, they begin forming larger pictures. They see relationships that others miss. This ability appears in detectives, scientists, entrepreneurs, artists, and sometimes ordinary people who simply pay close attention. The fascinating part is that pattern recognition often operates below conscious awareness. The brain detects a connection before the person can explain it. That's why many perceptive individuals describe having a gut feeling. Their subconscious mind has already solved the puzzle. Their conscious mind is just catching up. Number 7. They've usually experienced more than people realize. This final point might be the most important. Many people who notice what others don't develop that ability through experience, not talent. Experience, sometimes difficult experience. A child growing up in an unpredictable environment often becomes highly aware of emotional shifts. They learn to read moods quickly. They learn to notice danger before it appears. They learn to pay attention to tiny details. Over time, this awareness becomes automatic, even in adulthood. Similarly, people who have experienced betrayal often become better at spotting dishonesty. People who have faced hardship often recognize struggles that others overlook. Pain teaches observation, not because suffering is good, but because survival often depends on paying attention. And while others may see an exceptionally perceptive person, they rarely see the experiences that sharpen those instincts. Sometimes the people who see the most are the ones who had no choice but to learn. So what does all of this mean? It means people who see what others don't aren't necessarily smarter. They're not psychic. They're not magical. More often than not, they are simply paying attention in a world full of distractions. They're noticing patterns instead of appearances, listening instead of constantly speaking, observing emotions instead of just words, questioning assumptions instead of blindly following the crowd. And perhaps most importantly, they're willing to see truths that other people would rather ignore, because reality often whispers before it screams. The warning signs are usually there, the hidden emotions are usually visible, the patterns are usually present. Most people just don't slow down enough to notice them. So, if you've ever felt like you see things that others miss, don't immediately assume you're imagining it. You might simply be paying attention. And in a world where everyone is looking, very few people are truly observing. If you enjoyed this video, make sure to subscribe, leave a comment telling us which point resonated with you the most, and share this with someone who's always noticing things nobody else does. Because sometimes, the people who see what others don't are the ones who understand the world the best.